U.S. President Donald Trump is doubling down on his desire to change how certain elections are run in the U.S., taking powers out of the hands of the state and placing them at the control of the White House.
I want to see elections be honest, and if a state can't run an election, I think the people behind me should do something about it. Because, you know, if you think about it, a state is an agent for the federal government in elections. I don't know why the federal government doesn't do them anyway. But when you see some...
So that was his reaction following a judge ordering documents related to the FBI's raid of a Fulton County elections office in Georgia to be unsealed today. You might remember that the ballots that were seized in Georgia are central to Trump's 2022 stolen election claims. And there are concerns that the changes being pushed for by this administration could change the midterm elections. For more on those concerns, we're joined by Matthew Lebo. He's a professor of political science at Western University. Matthew's research, in fact, focuses on U.S. elections. So great to have you here this morning.
Thanks.
So the Department of Justice is suing 24 states over their refusal to share detailed voter information. What is the Trump administration's endgame here?
Well, they're trying to affect the elections. You know, the fall elections look really likely that Democrats are going to win back a majority in the House, potentially win the Senate. And they're trying to put their thumbs on the scales in a lot of different ways to affect people's ability to vote, to affect how the lines are drawn for districts, and hope that the courts allow them to do that and win a few more seats.
The U.S. Constitution says that individual states are the ones responsible for how elections are run. So what power, other than raising the question and testing the Constitution, what power does Trump actually have to nationalize elections?
Well, he's been successful already in a couple of ways. He called the governor of Texas and asked them to redraw the lines for the district. So usually there's a census every 10 years and lines were redrawn in 2021. But Donald Trump thought that he could win a few more seats in Texas. So they've redrawn those lines. And if everybody voted the same way in 2026, then the Republicans would pick up 5 seats. That's led to a bunch of other states following, including California, to redraw their seats. So that's some pressure, and that's really unusual, and that changes things. He can try an executive order to kill mail-in ballots. That's likely to be beaten back by courts. But whatever he does, he's really undermining faith that where Democrats win, he'll claim fraud, and a lot of people will believe that the elections were stolen.
Getting back to those 2 examples that you just mentioned, how will that redistricting then possibly affect the outcome of November's midterms?
Well, it can really backfire on Republicans because it's sort of based on people voting the same way. And when you want to add a few seats for Republicans in a state, it means taking Republican voters and sort of redistributing them and making safe seats a little bit less safe for Republicans. So if there's a big Democratic wave, then that could really only bring a few more seats for Democrats. But if there's not a big wave, then you're going to have, you know, Texas is going to become more Republican, California is going to become more Democratic, and you're going to have all sorts of states that are more lopsided than they are now, and still probably a Democratic majority.
Connecticut Secretary of State Stephanie Thomas says that her state is preparing for what she called a worst-case scenario in the midterms, including if the U.S. military is deployed to polling stations. The White House says these concerns are a Democratic conspiracy. How should states be preparing to hold elections in this current environment?
You know, the presence of ICE in all sorts of American cities right now is already intimidation, and people are trying to register to vote now. There'll be primaries soon, and a lot of people are really afraid to show up to public places, and so it's already having an effect. And it would be, you know, super unusual to have federal troops outside polling stations come election day, and I think states are just trying to figure out how they can possibly do that, to have, you know, state officials and federal officials and all of them armed outside of a polling place on election day. It's a pretty scary thought.
And not something that we're used to seeing in the United States of America. Matthew Lebo, professor of political science at Western University. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.